What I've noticed and observed over the years is that your typical non-brick and mortar, home-based service type of business, anything around the home, roofing, siding, something home-based, business coaching, expense reduction, these businesses can be up and running in 1 to 3 months. There's some great businesses for sale. And in my opinion, they're asking way too much. They want all the money up front. There's no seller financing. So it really starts to complicate deals. If you had the funds, would I invest? If I had 200K and the business was a 200K investment, would I invest at all? Absolutely not. I would put the bare minimum down. I would keep the other for working capital, maybe have a buffer there if business takes a little bit longer to get up and running.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast, where you can escape the corporate trap through franchise ownership. Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the Franchise Guide.
Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide, and have a very exciting show for you today. Wanted to cover some questions we've been getting recently. Thanks for joining us today. So I gave some thought today as to, had a couple ideas for shows and just kept getting the same question over and over again. And it's around ETA, entrepreneurship through acquisition versus starting from scratch versus opening a franchise, and thought it would be really beneficial to record a quick show covering all those topics. So entrepreneurship through acquisition, a brand new franchise, starting a business from scratch, resales, you name it, all kind of bundled into one. And just wanted to give some thoughts as to the way I would approach it, my thoughts and views on it, and then give those suggestions to you, and open to any other thoughts and ideas. Would love to help out. And you can always book a call directly at ggthefranchiseguide.com. And the button is at the top right-hand corner of the website. Okay, let's dive in. So in buying a business, so ETA, entrepreneurship through acquisition, you are essentially buying someone else's business. They could be set up differently. You may just be an asset sale. You're just buying the accounts, taking over for the business from there, setting up your own legal entity, your LLC or S Corp. Or there's a different structure where you're just picking up where the last business owner left and picking up the chart of accounts, the banking, the checking and the savings accounts and things like that. And basically just picking up even the account receivables. Anytime you're buying a business, it can be structured in many ways and there's going to be terms and things like that. But one key differentiator and why people are attracted to this is that they have immediate business coming in. And that's great, right? You have maybe employees and staff and office or storefront set up for you. Customers are coming in, which is great. And people like that because they can essentially put down the down payment alone, purchase the business, and off to the races. There's no waiting around, waiting for new customers to come in. You're picking up where the last business owner left off. With that being said, I tell everyone when you're doing this, you need to factor in your loan payment, right? Your debt service. And that's one thing I see people forget. Look at a business that's been in business 20 years. They may have no debt. They paid off their loans and maybe they're bringing home $10,000 a month. So $120,000 to the owner every year. When you're buying that business, maybe you're paying, we'll call it a 3 multiple to keep it simple. So $360,000. We're just keeping the numbers very simple here, but $360,000 for the business. You're going to put down 20, 30% down and fund the rest. You need to factor in those note payments. So that $10,000 that the previous owner was taking home may get cut in half. It may only be $5,000. So now you're netting $60,000 because you're servicing that debt over the next 10 plus years. So please factor that in and running your own pro forma. And that is going to dictate, is that enough for you? Can you work off of that? When it comes to franchises, same exact thing, same exact process, whether it's a franchise or non-franchise. What I will say is that most franchise resales that we see are usually happening from one franchisee to the next. So that may be just, hey, I'm retiring. We're in the same business. We're spraying for mosquitoes. We're cleaning homes. Whatever that business is, we could take it off your hands and avoid any type of broker fees. And those can creep up to 8 to 10% of the sale with some minimums in place. And that way there's less of a learning curve and you're picking up that business. But usually that happens when you're in a franchise system and you're able to take advantage of the network, and maybe someone is looking to retire, a divorce, someone health reasons that they have to sell. That's a quick way. Less of a learning curve. There's going to be some legal expense. Obviously, you want to make sure everything is done correctly, and there may or may not be a transfer fee from the franchisor, and that can all be figured out in conversation. By the way, when you're doing this, you're doing 2 levels of due diligence. Number one is you're talking with the person selling the franchise, that franchisee, doing the due diligence there. And then number 2, it's the same due diligence if you were purchased a new franchise. You're still wanting to make sure that franchisor, that franchise is is the right fit for you and that is going to partner with you, support you, and things like that. So you always have to meet that door, make sure the fit's there. They want to make sure you have a full understanding of the business, potentially offer a training program to get you up and running over and beyond what that has offered. So there is 2 levels of due diligence. When you're buying a non-franchise resale, obviously you're going to also be doing that due diligence. You won't have a door, obviously, to contact. You're going to be doing research, figuring out, hey, what is the overall feeling of the brand in the community? Is there damage control? Are things on the up and up? Are there outstanding jobs that need to get finished? Was down payments taken that you need to pick up in order to finish those jobs? So there's a lot there. And what I will say is there are sites like BizBuySell, just to name one, and there are plenty of others. This is where I spent a lot of time. I spent years kind of looking for these resales, and then you contact the owner. And in the 2 or 3 years, I think it was 2.5 years of looking at listings, I was not able to find a solid business to move forward with. A lot of times the business looked great, but the financials weren't there, or a lot of the financials were half were in the P&L and half were on the P&L. Maybe they were on the side, or maybe they took cash payments. Whatever the case was, I felt like I wasn't getting a full picture. And then there was the whole, what is the true multiple? In a franchise resale, the great news there is that you have history, and some systems will average and below a couple $1 million, maybe it's 3.5x. And over that, it's going to be 4x. So you have some history to work off of. Non-franchise, you're going to look at industry statistics. What does the average plumbing franchise go? Doing under 2 million, over 2 million, is that give it another multiple? So there's definitely some extra due diligence there and things to figure out. What I will say is I wasn't able to find a business, and most people I talk to spend years in the same spot trying to find that resale. And that's why they kind of come back to me and say, I'm looking at franchise resales, or heck, I'm even looking at a brand new franchise in my market. What do you have? And we spent a lot of time there. What I've noticed and observed over the years is that your typical non-brick and mortar, home-based service type of business, anything around the home, roofing, siding, something home-based, business coaching, expense reduction, these businesses can be up and running in 1 to 3 months. The franchise due diligence process doesn't take that long, because really it comes to how many franchisees you're going to speak with. So you may be talking with the franchisor, have 2 or 3 calls. They'll introduce you to the franchisees, and then you get to meet with the franchisor in person, usually the founder and CEO. That's bundled to where it's brand new. There isn't this added layer of due diligence in an existing business that you're purchasing in that resale. So the due diligence could take 1 to 3 months, I'd say, is the average range. And then from there, you're up and running, and you're usually given 6 months, but another 1 to 3 months to get up and running. So all in all, the full boat, it could be 4 to 6 months to get up and running with a new franchise. In many cases, generating revenue that first month, because there's a pre-sale process there. I've noticed a lot of the people looking at resales are taking twice as long. So they're worried about getting open, but the process of negotiation back and forth could take them 6 to 12 months. Sometimes that new franchise is up and running for several months before the due diligence process is even complete. So things to consider from a time frame overall, and the length of time and how long it takes that business to get up and running. With the resales, you're paying, when I say a 3 multiple, 3 times seller discretionary earnings. So if the seller, going back to the previous example, is making $120,000 and the agreed upon multiple is 3, so it's $360,000, you're paying for 3 years of current earnings up front. And obviously you can pay it in cash, or you can also finance it with the hope that's the baseline, and it only grows from there. So you're paying $360,000. Whereas if you purchased a brand new franchise, the investment could be significantly less. The investment could be 1 to 150, depending on what that brand is. So it can easily be cut in half, and you're starting off at a clean slate. You're not buying any headaches. You're starting from scratch. You're hiring the right people up front based off of your interviewing, not taking over some employees that you'll just take over just to help keep the business run in a resale. So you are paying this significant multiple for hopefully that cash flow that will continue. And obviously there's some variables there. We want to make sure those customers and clients are not canceling when taking over the business. There's a lot there. I threw it all in at once because they're all interconnected. They could all be viable options. They could all work, but it really depends on the person selling the business, the terms, what they're asking for. There's some great businesses for sale, and in my opinion, they're asking way too much. They want all the money up front. There's no seller financing. So it really starts to complicate deals. Some of those resales, including ours, the buyer wanted a performance guarantee that I would stay on, which wasn't a problem for the first month or so. I think it was a first month full time and then via phone after that. And that the customer base, there wouldn't be a mass exodus of clients initially, protecting him as well. So each one could be structured, and that's where things get a little hairy and a little crazy, because you get interest and then a buyer comes in, coming in significantly less on a cash deal without any financing. In other cases, they have so many stipulations. Hey guys, thanks for listening. I hope you're enjoying the show. As a thank you for being a valued listener, wanted to offer you a free copy of my book, Franchise Freedom. This book was written back in 2020, and it's my exact blueprint in helping you find that perfect franchise. I wrote it based off my experiences and wanted to pass that along to you. Want to chat today? You can book a call directly on our website, top right side of that screen, and you can schedule a 20-minute call. We'll dive into if a franchise is a good fit, help you get qualified, and figure out what that perfect franchise match may be. So I hope you take me up on my offer. Once again, Franchise Freedom. Download the book today for free or book a call with me directly, and we'll help you bypass all that information you find online. Most importantly, figuring out if a franchise is the right fit, and then figuring out what that perfect franchise looks like. So thanks again for listening to the show, and back to the show. So what I encourage everyone is really, if you're going to look the resale route, number one, I truly believe you got to be in the franchise system in order to find the good resales, although they do pop up on occasion. There are some great resales, non-franchise on the BizBuySells and other websites, but really take a look at to what you're buying, learn the market, how saturated is it? Is there a demand for the service? Look at the Google reviews, the Yelp reviews, any website that lists reviews, and get some feedback. My approach would be, if you end up buying the resale, you're going to have to meet and re-interview, not with the intention of maybe not call it an interview, just call it a meeting to replace anyone in the business, but just to meet everyone, understand their roles, kind of what they're doing, but also contact every single one of your clients and customers just to get their feedback. Maybe it's a discount or something you can offer them, a free coffee, $10 gift card to Starbucks for 10 minutes of their time, just to figure out what their thoughts are on the business, where the business can improve. For me, I wanted the business up and running relatively quickly. My last franchise, we were up and running in 30 days and generating revenue literally on day 31. Not a ton of revenue. We landed our first account literally same day. It was a small office we were maintaining. In any acquisition, especially in a franchise, you want to talk to franchisees and treat it like a new franchise due diligence process. And then obviously keep it separated, and obviously talking with that owner, talking with the existing franchisees that are in business, not selling their businesses, to understand their relationship, how you can basically work together. So these are all extremely important. It really depends on what you are looking for, but I wouldn't shy away from a new franchise, because in reality with this, and again, this is non-brick and mortar, this is a home-based service business. If you could be up and running in 1 to 3 months, you're not opening up 3 months later saying, okay, now let's turn the marketing on. So if you sign month 1, it's learning the business. Your marketing may start that month, it may start the following month. And in many cases, we have, for example, a small gym, a boutique fitness franchise. They're doing pre-sales. They're getting those kind of founding members on board to the point with the goal, again, the goal, not the guarantee, but the goal to have all your costs covered. You're cash flow positive before you open up those doors. So there are some benefits there. I wouldn't put aside brand new businesses or new franchises because there's no cash flow coming in. I wouldn't even consider them more risky, because you are going to have a significantly less of an investment, but you're starting from scratch and not having to go back to the customers and potentially have some damage control or some damage within the community, chamber of commerce and things like that. When you're getting into things like brick and mortar, like the gyms, the massages, the hair removal. Actually, with hair removal being the anomaly there, the one that stands out, that could be actually opened up in 3 months or so. But with the other ones, you're looking at realistically 6, 7 to 12 months for a non-standalone building. So we're talking in a shopping center, taking over the space, minimal improvement, and then just switching around. Maybe it's some paint, adding a wall or two or set up. So there's minimal improvements that are needed. Brick and mortar, standalone, single standalone buildings are going to take much longer. So keep that in mind. But you could be up and running, just call it 6 months, something pretty aggressive. You find the right location, get the landlord that can make things move relatively quickly. In many cases, 6 months to open. So month 4, you're really hammering the marketing and having pre-sales and having those members come in day 1. So in any franchise you look at or business, look for the time frame, the ramp up time. It's not just standard. It's going to take 6 months to get open, and this is what it looks like. You have to factor in your time. You get what you put into the business. So if you're running it part-time, you have a full-time manager in place? If you do not, how do you anticipate growing the business? What's going to be your role? The hours you're putting in, is it during the day or in the evening? So those are things to factor in. So it's not just a franchise, but it's going to be your role in the business, helping to spearhead the growth of that particular business. Lots of things to consider when you're also dealing with resales or different types of loans. There's SBA will provide a loan for a resale as they will with a brand new franchise, but those are going to be different loans. If I'm in your shoes, I'm getting SBA pre-approved for a new franchise as well as a potential resale. There's different terms, different down payments, and we work with one of our funding partners, Benetrends, that does a great job in getting you pre-approved for both, doing the credit checks, making sure that you can get approved, and if not, being proactive in figuring out what is needed to get you pre-approved. It may just be that the score is just shy of what's needed. It's usually about a 680, 700 range. So focus there, either fix up your current credit situation, paying off some debt, or it's using a credit repair company to go through and fix some major repairs at the 3 credit bureaus that monitor your credit on a daily basis. Those are all things to consider. If I'm in your shoes, you can analyze both. Maybe it's a few new franchises and compare that up against a resale. Ultimately, there's no right or wrong here. You need to really find that right resale. Everything may check off on the resale except for the price and the terms, and that kills a lot of deals. In other cases, the financials are just not in order. With the franchise, you're going to look at the item 19 and the item 7. The item 7 is going to be your general investment range from low to high based off the feedback of all the existing franchisees that have been in business for at least 12 months. And there's going to be an item 19, which is going to be set up a little bit differently depending on the brand, but that's going to give you, it's the financial representation. It's going to give you an idea of what the top 25%, the middle, the next 25, and then the bottom, kind of bottom tier, 25 and 25. Sometimes they break it up into thirds, but you can get a general idea of what they're doing and then get to speak with the franchisees directly and find out what they're making, what their ramp up time was, the mistakes they made that you can avoid and things like that. So those are all kind of benefits of the franchise, is that you may have 50, 100 plus current franchisees in the system. They may want to sell their business, which you can acquire one day, but they may be your future buyers of the business, but everyone's in the same boat. Everyone has their protected territories and everyone's working together for the greater good of the brand, getting the brand larger, getting more exposure, giving you access to better marketing solutions, and better yet, national accounts. We've seen brands have tremendous growth just with some partnerships with some of the national brands out there because now they are the preferred vendor. Now they are getting handed contracts in their market because of that. That's kind of my 2 cents on entrepreneurship through acquisition versus buying a new franchise. Don't let anyone tell you one is better than the next. I know some people, they're just you got to buy existing businesses. Anything else is crazy. Other people are against loans and just buying everything cash. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I don't necessarily agree. I agree with you do what's in your best interest. I'm all about leveraging loans, paying them back. The interest on the loans are deductible. There's lots of benefits, lots of leverage, keeping your capital that you're putting into the business like an SBA 20% or 30% and funding for the rest. Are there expenses to that? Yes. Are they deductible? Yes. But you have to be comfortable with that. So I'm not against loans. If you had the funds, would I invest? If I had 200K and the business was a 200K investment, would I invest it all? Absolutely not. I would put the bare minimum down. I would keep the other for working capital, maybe have a buffer there if business takes a little bit longer to get up and running. And there may be also a buffer in there to potentially buy another franchisee in the market or potentially another business that complements that franchise. So I'm not against that. I'm not against starting from scratch. When you start a business from scratch, obviously you have a lot of say in how that business is run. With the franchise, you don't have the headaches of some of the previous business owner. In a non-franchise startup, you have your expense may be less, but you have to factor in the time. And although the expense may be less and you're not paying a franchise fee for, we'll call it 50K, it may figuring out the CRM and the right way of doing business and the marketing and the call center, that could take several years. So maybe the out of pocket was only 5 or 10,000. That's a 40K difference there from the franchise when you're looking at the franchise fee, but it may have taken 2 years to get up and running, trial and error mistakes and things like that versus the franchise, which once you pay the franchise fee, you get access to everything. And now you have a year and a half plus head start of generating some revenue and some profitability before the startup had a chance to get up and running. Again, these are all things to consider. I am for whatever works best for you in your current situation. Some people are all about buying resales, and there may not be a resale in your market, or that resale is one state over or 3 hours away. So these are all things to consider, and there's nothing wrong of doing both. There are people that buy franchises brand new, then they buy resale later. It's not it's not just about choosing one. Over the years, you may own a little real estate like I do, own some stocks, own some businesses. That's okay. You start to diversify things. You have different buckets. There's going to be different risk associated with each. More importantly, there's going to be different time requirements. My stock portfolio, we meet with our financial advisor once a quarter. It's an hour investment plus any other time I put in total for the quarter. Whereas my business, obviously, I'm spending a lot more time. Really decide what the ideal business looks like. And then you start there, then you work in reverse. Does a resale get me to where I want to be? Is it a brand new franchise? Is it a franchise resale? Is it real estate? I have no time to put in. Maybe it's a real estate syndication where the time investment is going to be to a minimum. You have another company and they're handling everything and they're just supplying supports to you, doing a monthly call, if a monthly call, but usually a monthly email kind of with an update. I hope this was helpful. These are just high level thoughts on buying an existing business, a new franchise, having a startup. Coincidentally, we took a look at past shows and it was one of our top viewed shows that we did, may have been over a year ago, resale versus buying new. So we also wanted to just revisit it and just say, you got options. There's no right or wrong here. And I encourage you to book a call with me, ggthefranchiseguy.com/calendar. You can hit the button, the top right-hand side of the screen. And if you're thinking about one, I'm working with someone right now, looking at one franchise and then one non-related mom and pop business in the market, just comparing both. Actually may move forward with both, and that's okay as well. But if you do want to talk it through, I can absolutely help. We can talk about the differences, the expectation, the things to consider, some questions. I've been in your shoes. I sold my own business. Originally, it listed on BizBuySell and then just sold it on my own, had a buyer in the area. So can definitely talk you through things to consider and if adding in a franchise makes sense. But ultimately, it goes back to what's better. And the answer I give, which I know annoys a lot of people, but it's true, is it depends. It depends on kind of what you're looking for. So thanks for listening, guys. I hope this was helpful. Again, going back to the questions we get on a daily basis, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just going in and reminding people that it's okay to do your research. It's okay to look at options with the intention, obviously, of moving forward at some point, but want to save you the time. I want to save you guys the headaches, and I want to save you a ton of money by avoiding some of the mistakes I see people make on a daily basis. I can talk at length about these mistakes. I think we did a show a couple weeks ago on some areas to people that shouldn't buy, 5 reasons you shouldn't buy a franchise. But I could talk about some mistakes I've made. I could talk about mistakes I see people make in rushing the process and things like that. Let me know how we can help. Email me if you have a topic for a show. If you'd like to be a guest, book a call with me. If you want to just dive in and save yourself hours and months worth of headaches and research, if you just want to dive in and need some direction, more than glad to help. Our service is free to you. We're paid by the franchise companies. Ultimately, it doesn't affect your investment, but it affects your time. We can help you figure out really quick if a franchise is a good fit, if you should even look into that direction, or the resale or the startup. Hit me up. I appreciate your support. Talk to you guys soon. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.